Welcome back to Raised by Her. Please feel free to continue to like and subscribe. Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good, but I mean, you are like really rocking and rolling this
I
afternoon
am. It's
because
saying it's March Madness.
this woman in her sports.
I
And like
love it. I love it. I love it.
this
In fact, I was concerned about not having a voice because I've been yelling and screaming at the refs and the TVs. But I'm good.
You're good.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
All right. So you were at the game and your team did what it is you needed them to do, and you're looking forward to next steps.
I am the top 4 teams in basketball in the NCAA. Right now is just before the big dance. So people will be, I think, watching basketball now for the next several weeks and cheering for their favorite teams. And yeah, it's good. It's
It's
all
good.
good.
Okay. You know what I used to love to do? Actually, sometimes. Then we're gonna try to implement it as a family, and then I was like, "Oh, this is too much work." But doing the actual like ranking,
The brackets.
the brackets,
The brackets.
yes. But I watched some families that do. I'm like, that's cool. And then you can either get bragging rights or a prize or whatever it is.
I know that my brother is who played basketball when he was in school and in college. He used to fill out the brackets, but they're all different ways to do it.
Oh yeah, I mean like
So,
workplaces do them, and yeah.
but it's cool. It's a happy time for those of us who love sports and for
Mhm.
those of us who are really into the teams. And some Ohio teams are doing really well, like Miami of Ohio, Oxford. They have had a good season, although they're not highly ranked like Duke and Michigan and Florida and Arizona, but they still have had a really good season. And most recently, I was rooting for the University of Dayton.
Of course you are.
Was playing, well, they're playing in the Atlantic 10, but this is the beginning. So
Okay.
go team,
Go
go team, go team.
All right, and while you're watching that, I'll be watching my streaming services and my dramas.
Of course you will, right?
But another piece of somewhat relevant to sports that did pop onto my radar, our radar, was Dak Prescott. Did you see this?
Yeah,
Yes, he was in the news because he
did.
just signed a big deal. I think it was $260 million, and he was all set to get married next month.
Go, brother.
And then, there was allegedly some discussion with his fiance, and they called it off because, again, allegedly, she didn't wanna sign the prenup.
But don't they have children together? Or haven't they been together?
I think they have 2 kids.
Well, okay.
I know. What it prompted for me in terms of, like, the conversation around prenups, I was like, it's hard to have a conversation about prenups without knowing the specifics because they are such, fluid documents and so many different things could be in there, and so I'm like, was he not willing to negotiate on some things? Did she not know to negotiate on some things? Was, like, well, kind of like, what was the behavior around the prenup? Because for me, I'm like, prenups they can do or say almost anything, as long as it doesn't break any other laws. And so I'm like, what was she asking for that was so egregious? Or what was he unmovable on that was so egregious? Particularly to your point, because they've been together for so long and I've already, they co-parent and have kids and all these other things.
I was thinking that when I was reading about the story, how sad it is to have been together for an extended period of time, looking forward to the life you're going to build together. And now your big break comes and you have now all the money in the world to do whatever it is that you have dreamed about. And you now are deciding, okay, to get married. I would have liked for them to have gotten married before, but that's that's me. But that's me. But
That's a throwback.
yeah, that is that's what
Okay.
yes, that's a throwback. But now they have this opportunity to have this wonderful life together, and now they have a disagreement about how they're gonna move their life forward because of money. One of the number one things that really cause a problem in marriages and in relationships.
And the fact that they were supposed to get married in April and it's in March. So that's also super close to me to even be having the conversation about prenups and whether or not just to even sign, but also to negotiate what's in it. Like I realize people do it all different types of ways, but um, a month out is a little late to
Okay,
me.
so what is a prenup? It is an agreement between two individuals who are deciding to join their lives in terms of marriage and their assets. And they are putting on paper the specifics of how things might have to occur if there is a divorce in the foreseeable future.
Okay, yes. And so just for some additional facts, um, prenuptial agreements are rapidly increasing in popularity in the United States, with around 15% of all married adults having one. That's up from just 3% of all adults having them in 2010. And it's a practice that is most common among younger generations. Roughly 47% of millennials, shout out to my fellow millennials, um, and over 1 in 4 Gen Z couples report signing a prenup. So they are rising in popularity for a variety of reasons, a few of which is that there's a generational shift in terms of when people get married. And
Yes,
so as
yes,
folks are older, they have more assets to
right.
consider and to protect, whether that's student debt or their own personal finances, like in the situation we're talking about now. And then also, let's see. Oh, a key driver is also the rising rates of entrepreneurship and the rising rates of second marriages.
Yes, well, I can understand that. When I think about the agreements that you want to have in a relationship, in a marriage relationship, it really comes down to a trust issue. It comes down to an asset issue in terms of what you have, what you've accumulated. It also comes down to, I believe, the children and how you want them protected and how you want to protect yourself in the foreseeable future. It makes it more challenging when it goes from love and us spending our lives together to being all about the money. So I think you have to be able to have that discussion, to your point, early on and be able to talk about honestly how you feel about that. Your bank account, my bank account, and then the bank account.
Finances are a big part of
They are. They
marriage.
are.
And to act like they're not is disingenuous. I feel like if you even know. I also feel like you don't know what you don't know until you get into a marriage. Like, you know as much about a person as you can, but this whole like, the idea of getting married for love is v a pretty US concept still, and some folks argue that that's a reason that there's such a high divorce rate in the United States compared to some other countries. It's because, yes, love is a factor, but marriage is so much more than just the love.
The reality of the situation is that when you are bringing all of the assets, whatever you're bringing to the table together, we need to talk about how we're going to navigate our lives together in terms of your finances, but also if something happens, how do we then want to divide that which has occurred? And it's a challenging conversation to have when you're upset with each other.
Yeah, you wanna do
When you
right, you wanna
when you
do it when
when
everybody's happy and excited
Yes,
about
yes,
future.
when you're not getting along, and that's generally what happens. It's been a part, I believe, well, I know it's been a part of the lives of wealthier people because wealthy families want a plan. They want to make sure that the wealth that is in the family is going
Mhm.
to stay in the family if indeed something happens. And when you have a divorce rate that's over 50%, and you mentioned second marriages, you have other people coming in, you also want to protect the future of your children.
It's
I just
family
think that's
management.
it is family management.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to to
I
Deccan's his fiance, but
I feel like it's family management in the same way that, like, estate planning is family management, and just like you don't want to start considering and talking about, wills and, powers of attorney and all those types of things when there is something else going on, because then if there's something else chaotic going on, that's what's taking your time. You wanna have those things in place initially. That way, it's something you fall back on, and you know that you've already considered it from a measured and a more logical perspective with the rest of your family or with your spouse or whoever else is involved.
it would seem to me that in terms of family counseling, when the counselor or the minister talks to you about the things that you have talked about, things you've considered, the things that you are planning for your future, all of these particular topics would really come into, I think, the discussion. but estate planning or wills, it's not a part of what you're talking about when you're getting married. You know, that counseling session that you have with the minister before you
If
decide
you
to
get
go
married in
down.
church.
Well, that's true. If you get married in church, a lot of people don't, I guess, and they don't have to have that. But it's a conversation that your dad and I had to have, a conversation you and your husband had to have. And
Yeah,
so,
because you really wanted me to get married in a church. Do you remember that?
yes, I do.
I want to get
did.
married in a
I
museum.
wanted you to get married, yes, in the museum.
We were gonna have the reception in the museum, Donica, but can you please,
Please.
have
And
wedding in a church?
your mother-in-law wanted you to get married in the church as well.
That's true.
So
That's
it
true.
was,
Yeah,
so
we
I
appeased our mothers.
well, you did. A part of what you and your convenience, you said, "Well, Mom, we won't have to move if we could, the minister can be there and we can be in the museum and we can just move from one area to another." And
Make it easy for everybody.
yeah, but it was a beautiful wedding in the church.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
it ended up
yes,
it ended up working out.
and the mothers were pleased. So thank you.
Yes.
But my point is that you need to have the conversation about all of these things on the front side, not when you're not getting along. And we know that over 50% of the people that get married in this country end up getting divorced.
Did you and my father even talk about prenups?
No.
Okay. It wasn't even like a thought. Because again, a part of this is I mean, you were married prior to 2010 when the prevalence of this was only 3%,
right.
you know, and now it's a part of the culture in a different type of way now, but
We didn't, and actually we were older, so we should have. But it is a problem when if you decide that you're not going to be together, to start talking about then how you're going to divide things.
yeah, people are then in their feelings.
That's exactly right. Very much in their feelings. And then the lawyers get involved, and then you have to pay so much money to be able to have the lawyers to negotiate. So you don't have to negotiate on the front side if you have that conversation. You're having a realistic conversation. What I believe is that the man wants his family taken care of. He wants to be able to make sure his children are taken care of. And he's the man of the family, so taking care of the wife and making sure that henceforth and forevermore, she has what she needs. And then I think it should also be an agreement that the wife would have, okay, let's do what makes sense and what's realistic, because I've been very much a part of this relationship. I have helped to not only take care of the kids, but take care of the house or take care of you and take whatever it is that you all have decided to do. So let's have that conversation on the front side.
Okay, yeah, to your point, it comes down to the details and what was able to be negotiated and what wasn't able to be negotiated. That's where I'm not quite understanding. She's come out more recently and said that the reason for their breakup actually had nothing to do with the prenup, but it had to do with other factors. And so other folks are speculating and kind of going back into their relationship history and are saying, well, he's had an issue with fidelity. And so that could be a contributing factor as well. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, include that in the prenup. You know what I mean? Like, you can include these types of things.
And we have heard of people that haven't
Yeah,
included that.
so like, I just, yeah. So just it prompted some additional questions for me. My husband, a prenup did come up 10-ish years ago when I got married. And I was starkly against any type of signing of a prenup. And my husband was kind of like, whatever. It is his friends that were like, no, she should. And I was like, I'm not marrying your friends, type thing. However, now like a decade later,
Yes.
I am like, it's fine either way based on the nature of our relationship. But I'm a fan of prenups.
You're a fan of planning.
I'm a fan of planning. I'm a fan of contracts. I'm a fan of putting things.
That's probably
on
that law
paper.
school scenario.
I'm like, I know this is the lawyer in me for sure, but like, just put it all down. And you can there's post-nups. You can always amend, as life goes on and things change. But having a initial starting point, I only feel like is extremely helpful, particularly for women, because we know the negative financial, if we're talking just about finances, financial impact on women when there is a divorce.
And we probably at some point on our podcast really need to go a little bit deeper into the financial protections that women need to have, because this is a topic of consideration for all women,
Mhm.
but particularly women who have been out in the work world and are now beginning to have some assets and wanting to be able to make sure their family is well taken care of. So you often say that it's important for the man to have a role and to know what his role is, and the woman to have a role as well, but there needs to be an agreement. Families do it
All types of different ways.
all different kinds of ways.
It's about the two of you and what you want your life to look like.
Right. But I do think being protected and being well taken care of is something that should be near the top of the list. I think that's what one would want.
I I agree with you. I agree with you. So best of luck to both of them,
That's true.
for sure, whatever they decide to do moving forward.
And my heart goes out to the children that are greatly impacted
Yeah.
by
Mhm.
what they as adults are doing, because there's not just those individuals who are impacted. There's the next generation that's impacted. So take care of your business.
Take care of your business. Actually, on that point, though, another point of the driver of prenuptial agreements is, and I can't remember the exact statistics. I can pull them up maybe in a little bit, but it's that millennials, who are by and large driving this, didn't grow up with two parents in the household as much as the folks did in your generation. And so they have been incentivized or prompted, or there's general awareness that it might not last. So, what protections do I need to put in place to ensure that my life doesn't fall apart if this particular piece of my life starts to fall apart?
The challenge of the household that is a single parent household has been a growing trend in particularly the United States over the last several years. And what we have found is that there are a lot of women who are raising their children on their own. They're raising children, and there are some men, there's some single fathers who have been in the situation where they're raising the children, but primarily it's been women who have really been left to take on that responsibility. So I know exactly what you mean when you talk about the trend.
It's 62% of the millennial generation were raised by both parents, whereas 85% of boomers born 1946 to 1964 were raised by both parents, according to Pew Research Center. So, there are thoughts that also
As a
has
boomer,
been.
as a boomer,
Yeah.
right? But when you also look at those statistics, you'll find that during the booming age, men were primarily the breadwinners. As things began to change in the 50s and 60s, where women started getting more and more in the workplace,
We fought and won the right to.
we fought. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So it just happened. Yeah, and we're the
No,
primary breadwinners
yeah,
because, um, the women weren't allowed to be.
that's true. That is very true.
So lots of
Unfortunately,
here.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so things have changed. So what you're talking about is not only changing trends, but also how that impacted the family situation, the household.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel we're gonna be kind of hard on men a little bit in this episode, but it's out of care and concern.
It is out of care and concern, and we've been talking a lot about men's health and men's health issues this week because of some of the other trending stories and some things that have really come out in the media. And it's such an important topic, though. We've talked a lot on our podcast about women's health and the things that have impacted us in our families, but we have not talked about how the health issue has impacted those men that we love and that we care about and the trends that have been taking place there.
Yeah, so my husband actually pointed this out to me. He's like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, I'm not a man, so I wouldn't focus. Our algorithms are different." And he was talking about the fact that a gentleman that goes by the name of KevOnStage, his real name is Kevin Fredericks, and he's a very popular comedian, content creator, and entrepreneur. Um, a few a little while ago, was doing a social media post about going to the doctor.
Hmm.
And he posted about his experience going to the doctor, and then also about the need for Black men to make sure that they get their annual checkups.
Yes.
And he got massive backlash from folks saying that that's not necessary, that he must be gay if he's doing this, that if you go to
Wait a
the
minute. He must be gay if he is going to the doctor and then suggesting that other black
so
men go to the doctor?
we see this in our comments on social media quite a bit. So reading is fundamental. and, and using your ears,
Yes.
listening is also
Right. Right.
critical in communication.
Yes.
And so folks were like, "Do you not know the difference between an annual checkup and an anal checkup?" And I actually don't think
Oh.
that's what it was. I mean, because he was talking about an annual checkup. He wasn't even talking about going in for a prostate
Prostate
exam, which is
exam.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is what
It's
some of those
that's
comments
what
were.
the prostate exam is evasive, but it's so necessary.
We're about to spit some statistics
Well,
about
yeah,
yes, particularly.
it is. I know it's not
Women.
comfortable, but our gynecological exams are not
Yeah, we're like,
comfortable either.
It does men always say this. If y'all only knew.
If they really exactly. So brothers, come on. Let's be realistic here. But go ahead with
Yeah,
your
and so he just got this massive backlash, and I was like, huh. And I was like, well, I really don't like having conversations about a population that I don't feel like is represented in the room.
So you're saying what we should do is ask your husband to come in to talk
Not
about this?
necessarily.
Oh, just checking, just checking.
Not right here now. Maybe at some point for some reason in the future. But he was like, no, I think that you all can absolutely, as two black women, talk about this because to your point, we are the people that you love. We are your partners. We are your friends, and our decisions impact you. And they impact you mentally, emotionally, caretaking, financially, all those things. And so, as a part of this kind of head of household, a part of your responsibility is also taking care of your health to the degree that it's possible. So, not that I was asking for permission, but I was like, that is a good perspective. All right, we will talk about men without having a man at the table.
When your dad and I would have this conversation about his health and talk about what he needs to do. And of course, because I was an advocate of making sure I would go to my annual exams and I would come back and I would talk about what the doctor has said. Um, and he would indicate, I'm not sick. I don't feel like I need to go to the doctor. And I said, well, I wasn't sick either. I was going for an annual exam, whether it's a breast exam. I just do that.
It's part of the prevention.
Well, and I reminded him, I said, "Do you remember the well baby checkups that we used to have when Donica was born? It's that kind of thing." So men too have to go and have exams, even if you're feeling okay. And there was a lot of resistance there. Same kind of conversation with my father periodically. Now, Daddy was okay going to the doctor, but
I don't know if my grandmother gave him a choice.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. The minute our lives that mommy indicated, I can hear the conversation now. Frank, this is what you need to do, and this is why you need to do it. And this is how the food that you're eating is affecting you, and it's going to impact your life later on. So there was a lot of conversation, and this is back in the 50s and 60s. But Dad didn't resist Mom in terms of that. I mean, he understood because of some of the things that had happened in his family, and him looking at the men in his family and some of the diseases that run in our family, whether it had been diabetes or whether it was heart disease, and so, but it was challenging, and the conversations are challenging. Why should it be challenging?
Yeah. So, and actually, to that point about some of the other ways that you can live a healthy lifestyle, because this was a part of what showed up in the criticism in Kevin's comments. They were like, "You don't need to go to the doctor. You can just go to the gym," and it's like having a workout routine is a part of a healthy lifestyle. Having a healthy lifestyle does not mean that you will never have any underlying conditions or that your family history is no longer a factor or that something else could be going on despite you looking and feeling okay, maybe on the outside. Like working out is a part of this, but it's not all of this. And so, yes, absolutely work out and eat healthy and take your herbs and everything, but also please go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor. Heart disease is the number one killer for African American males. We know that it's a chronic disease and it's a challenge. We also know that cancer is one of the diseases that really take our men on out of here too. And we want to make sure that you have yourself checked out and then continue to live that healthy life that you can.
Yeah, and to take it even further about why we would even be compelled to talk about this, and I think why Kevin even felt compelled to talk about this is because Black men have a life expectancy of 4 years shorter than everybody else in the United States population. And approximately 58% of Black men have high blood pressure, which is one of the highest rates
Yes.
in the not in the US, in the world, and they are 18% less likely to have their hypertension under control compared to the rest of the population. Also, Black men are 35% more likely to die from major cardiovascular disease than the overall US population. And they account for over 50% of heart failure hospitalizations for adults under the age of 50. I could keep going on and on and on about the variety of
Right.
disparities, but the numbers are astronomical.
Yes, they are. And even when you look at prostate cancer and going and making sure that you have had your prostate checkup is so important because, and that's a somewhat simple exam to have, even though, as I said before, it's somewhat evasive, but it makes such a difference in the future of what our men can have in terms of a healthy lifestyle because you can prevent some of the challenges.
Let's talk about the prostate cancer for Black men. Black men are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer and 2 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than white men. 1 in 6 Black men will develop prostate cancer in their lifetime. Get checked.
That's right. Just go get checked out and have your prenup so that no, 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 no. But I mean, you really go ahead and make sure that you're doing it for yourself, for your family, for those that you love. And I know it's really hard to convince them because there are some people in my life that I love dearly that truly just seem to resist it. And the older we've gotten, there's more and more resistance. But if it's too late, then it doesn't help you. So what we're truly trying to do is be preventive here and say, just go get checked out and do what you're supposed to do so you can have your healthy life and you can take care of yourself and your family and to be able to live the kind of life you want to live.
Yeah, live a life you love. Yes, but we cannot have this conversation without the context of why there might be some hesitancy around Black men, but Black people in the healthcare system, in the U.S. in particular.
That's
I
true.
mean, I mean, the history around whether we're talking about the Tuskegee experiments or all the other experiments and injections and the and the I don't know, the awful things that were done to us without us even knowing about it, and I mean, it goes back, well,
It goes back,
the
yes, many,
since we
many
got
years.
here.
Yes, yes, many years. And I think that having that kind of historical perspective and for families to be able to talk about that because I know some African American physicians that even when they are having conversations about not only Black men but Black families going to the doctor, there are certain questions that they would suggest that you ask. They want you to know why it is you're going to the doctor.
Mhm.
They want you to know why it is then the doctor is sharing with you the tests that need to be taken, and it's because of this historical perspective that you're talking about. And for those of you who may not know the history, you need to just look up the Tuskegee experiment.
Yeah, start there.
Yeah, that's one of the particular situations that was not only tragic in terms of the African American population, but it continues today to be able to resonate in terms of Black people and why we feel the way that we do about going to the doctor.
So that is the reality, but that reality does not negate your responsibility. Um, and I actually think that it makes it even more important for you to take ownership of your health, to the degree possible, because it's not about just going to the doctor, although that is our baseline ask. You then have to make sure that you identify a doctor that you trust, to your point about your friends and our friends that are physicians that have educated us on going a step further. It's part of the reason why I get part of my healthcare in a different city. Be all the way honest about it, because some of the answers to the questions I had didn't line up.
That's right. Yeah.
And so even we just want people to be as healthy as possible.
That's right.
And just the amount of backlash and the unreasonable responses to his simple ask of just go to the doctor, it caught me off guard, and it even prompted my husband, a Black man, to say, hey, you guys might want to talk about this because it's not something that's talked about enough. And there still is a pervasive sentiment within our community that they don't need to go to the doctor for whatever reason.
Let's not be afraid of what you don't know here. Let's be really, I think, forward thinking, and let's be proactive in terms of your health. You'll be healthier in the future, and future generations will be healthier because the more you know, then the more you can address, especially in a society that has all things happening to us on so many different levels, challenging our health, not only our food, but our environment. So there are reasons why it is important for you to go and just to be checked out.
And I mean, and for the women who listen to us, don't let up on it. Like when I got married, my husband did not like to go to the doctor, and he was like, "You go to the doctor for everything," and I'm like, "You're damn right." Like I sneeze, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm like, what's happening? Where are we going?"
Well, yes, yes.
But I would not let up on the fact that you need to get checked out, and you just need to make sure that um, everything is okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, from his perspective, he was like, actually similar to what you just said. And so I wonder if there's some correlation to some of the conversations you've had with the men in your life. He's like, well, what I don't know won't hurt me.
Right.
And
Right.
also, prior to going to the doctor, there was nothing wrong.
Right.
And then I come back from the doctor and I got this and I got this and I got
They want to give me, and they want to give me pills, and they just want to give me more pills, and they're just trying to make money, and they're on the side of the pharmaceuticals companies, and we do have all of those different kind of conversations. And what's challenging is that the comeback to that makes sense to us, but it doesn't really make sense to the men that we are talking about. And most recently, um, because of my birthday celebration, I heard from some old friends, and I was talking to them about how they're doing. And when I was listening to some of the challenges that they have had, and I was thinking, did you go to the doctor ahead of time? Did you check this out ahead of time? Because to your point, if something starts to not feel right, what I'm going to do, especially at this age, is I'm going to go have it checked out, because then I'll feel better knowing what it is.
And early diagnosis is key.
Early.
That is one of the
Yes.
main things that
That is
save a person's life.
That is absolutely
You have to know,
true.
but you have to know early.
Yes.
And so if you don't get checked, you can't know early.
So regardless of what your age is, regardless of what the situation is, it's better to know and to be able to then address it in a certain kind of way. And if there's nothing wrong, then that's good.
Yeah. So again, my message to women is keep your foot on your your partner's neck and make them and try to make
as
them
much
go.
as
And as
you
long as for as long as you can, for as hard as you can.
It's an expression of love.
It is an expression of love. And my husband now goes to the doctor. And so it's taken a while, but it is now a part of his healthcare practice. So we are now in stage 2, where it's like, okay, now that you know this, the next step is to address it.
In terms of some of his health talent.
You have to first know the landscape, and then you address the landscape. You can't just know, not do anything.
I will
But
say
stages.
that your husband has had some conversations with me about some of the health challenges, and he's really glad that he knows now why he feels the way he does, or how to be able to address some of the things. Now, he wasn't glad to go because initially he was complaining, but then after you know, then you can address it. So he's a prime example.
And I also think you know more about this than I do. And we don't have to do a deep dive because it's really not in totality our story to tell. But it hits home for us because this was a part of my father's journey as well. And he's no longer with us.
Right.
But he passed away of cancer. But when the doctor first recognized that there was cancer present in the body, he had the opportunity to go to that step 2 that we just talked about in terms of get it addressed. And he chose for a lot of reasons not to do that. And he was able to survive for over a decade after that, but it's eventually what ended up taking his life.
And what he said those last few months is, if I had to do it over again, I would do it differently. And then he apologized to me
Mm.
too. He said, I, I just thought that it was not going to end up this way.
Mhm.
I was taking charge of what I thought I needed to take charge of. And he was taking a more natural, holistic approach for a number of years. But he also was tired of going to the doctor and dealing with the cancer. So there's a whole different concept that we have to sort of take a look at in terms of how it impacts your life. And yes, he'd rather still be here, but you're right that he decided not to take the traditional route. And we're not saying that there's any one way to go about dealing with your health or your health situations. There are many ways. And we have said before, you make sure you get a second opinion, sometimes a third opinion, and you go about it in the way that you need to go about it. But at the end of the day, you need to know. And when he found out, he did address it at some point in the way that he wanted to address it. Not as aggressively as I would have liked, but when we had that conversation where he apologized for how it impacted me and our lives, and then he made that statement
Mm.
that if I had it to do again, I would do it differently. Well, yes, we all know that in life, that's the way it is. So, and when you looked at the health of his family, because his father died of cancer,
Mhm.
and his father didn't go to the hospital or the doctor to have it checked out until he was in stage 4 cancer.
Mm.
And so the fact that your father knew that, he did address it, he just didn't keep on addressing it, I guess
Yeah.
is probably the best way to say that.
Continuity of care is a part of this. Don't it's an annual exam for a reason. Go every year. Don't go once every 5 years. Don't go once every 10 years. And the older you get, the more frequently you have to go. I mean, you and I talk about adding appointments
Yes, we do.
to our
We do.
calendars the older we get because it's a lot, but also you wanna be here.
You do want to be here, and you want to be here in a way that you are living your life. You don't just want to be here and just exist. You want to be able to engage in life, be healthy, do the things that you want to do. So, um, and I can say that my father, who died of heart disease,
Mhm.
he did go to the doctor and he did address the situation, but he didn't always follow the advice. And his comeback to me would be, well, yes, that's true. They did tell me to do that, but you're going to die of something. And I'd say, Daddy, that's not the perspective to have here. So my father died at 80, and I'm getting closer to that. So
Mhm.
it makes me think about it. And heart disease ran in that side of my family. So we have to be careful.
We have to be careful, and then I'll just say one other thing about this based on the comments, um, that Kev received, because another part of the backlash, folks were like, "Well, we don't have $10,000 to go to an annual exam every year." So it does not cost $10,000 to get an annual exam. Depending on your health insurance, it should cost anywhere from 0 to a couple $100. But if that's not accessible for whatever reason, there are also free clinics. You might have to go the extra step depending on your situation to find care, but care is still available for you if you seek it. And also, whatever the cost is to prevent, it's so much smaller than the cost
It's a
is
lot
to
cheaper.
try to
It is a
treat.
lot cheaper
And
than
so,
waiting.
if
Yes.
you are complaining about how much it is you think it costs to prevent something from happening or to practice preventative care, you are really going to be in a tough situation if you receive a diagnosis, because that's when we're talking about the tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And to that point, there's also an opportunity to, if you have to take medicine, if there are drugs that have been prescribed for you to do some research, because there's generic drugs out there. There are other ways to be able to address these situations. So you can ask for help. And what we're saying is it's not an easy path necessarily, but there are other pathways to be able to go about addressing these situations.
Yes. Yes.
So, whew, I'm telling you, that's
But then come on now,
yes, we want you
from the
to
people who love
live.
you.
We want you to really do what you need to do so you can live a healthy life and take care of your family and do the things that you know to do now so that you can have that long life and living your best life.
All right. So continuing on this week's theme, which wasn't intentional, of Black men in the news.
Oh,
And we've
yes.
talked about this gentleman before,
Oh, yeah.
but Pastor Jamal Bryant
Yes.
has declared that the boycott of Target is over. And you actually, when I brought this to you, something that we might want to talk about, you were like, say what now? You hadn't even heard of this app. Lucky for you, you hadn't heard it. So you were continuing on with the boycott and continuing on with what you.
Right. Absolutely. I'm going to continue on because it's important for us to not only as Black people to take a stand, but it's important for us to know what's going on today. And I had not heard that the boycott was over.
So upon doing a deeper dive, there are a couple nuances that I think are important, and then we can dive into what we believe this truly means for our community in this particular situation. So first and foremost, um, Pastor Jamal Bryant was responsible for the Target fast and not necessarily the Target boycott. And so those are two different things. And articles in the media convoluted the two. So I actually didn't even know there was a difference prior to doing a deeper dive. But the initial organizers of the boycott were some individuals in leadership at the Racial Justice Network, the Black Lives Matter Minnesota Network, and another organization, which I apologize, that name has escaped me. And so they were the initial organizers of the boycott. And so when Jamal Bryant came out and said that the boycott is over, particularly the leadership of the Racial Justice Network was like, sir, you aren't in a position to declare this boycott over because
Right.
you were not in a position of leadership when this boycott started. And so I was like, okay. And then I was like, why would he declare this boycott as over? Did we receive everything that um we wanted as it pertains to this particular boycott?
Do you remember what all of the ramifications?
Oh yeah, I'm about to break it down.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Excuse
I mean,
me.
I had some additional thought. I don't know. I might have hit it.
Okay. All right.
All
Good.
right. So these were the asks from the boycott. Invest $2 billion into Black businesses and entrepreneurs. Deposit $250 million specifically into Black-owned banks. Establish HBCU centers, or open 10 retail training centers at historically Black colleges and universities. Reverse the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI cuts that have been implemented and scaled back since
Which is
early
what
2025.
actually got
Huh.
the attention and prompted this particular deep dive into not only the company, but what they had done and hadn't done over the years past. That's what really started this. First the dialogue and then the boycott.
Correct. And then lastly, so there were 5 asks. Lastly, to increase board representation on the company's board to 13%.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, if he wants to end the boycott,
Let's
all
see.
of these things must have been addressed.
Yeah, let's see what
Yay
they've
for new
done.
success.
Yes.
But in fact,
Okay.
there have been
No.
no DEI policy reversals from Target. There has been additional supplier commitments. So we are in the process, apparently, of receiving those $2 billion into Black-owned businesses. It is reported at currently being 95% fulfilled as of this month.
I've actually seen some news stories where Black entrepreneurs who have certain products have indicated that their products are now on the shelves in some of the Target stores around the country. That has been something that has been talked about and promoted on some of the news shows and some of the talk shows.
And there has been some increase in board representation.
Okay. That's all?
You see my silence, which I know you're not supposed to do on an audio podcast, but I mean, I'm like, okay, and what about the rest of it?
Right. Any progress in terms of the individuals who are supposed to be setting up the training centers.
Oh, okay. So they've committed to opening some
Okay.
HBCU training centers. And so there has, again, not been any reverse on the DEI cuts that were made. And in terms of the $250 million for Black-owned banks, that has not been achieved. But then when I was looking at the data, I was like, but none of this has been achieved because 95% there in terms of a pledge for Black businesses and entrepreneurs is not 100% plus. You have committed to piloting some HBCU centers in the future is not open 10 retail training centers at HBCUs. A progress on board representation is not a, a increase in Black representation on the company's board to 13%. So I'm like, now wait a minute.
So a few months ago, when this was being talked about again on some of the talk shows, what was interesting is that because of today's environment, today's political environment, they Target and the representatives have been able to pull back because they felt that the country as a whole was not now demanding the same kinds of progress to be made in terms of DEI and some of the other standards and value systems that had been put in place. So they sort of shifted in some of the things that they were planning on doing, and some of the progress that they had talked about. Now, this was Reverend Al Sharpton and some other folks talking about what had not been done and why, and that the pressure was still going to have to be put forward and pushed forward by the African American population and also the majority population, because what affects us affects other people. So
Correct.
we're all in this together. The challenge today is that we are being hit on so many levels and challenged on so many levels with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, with people feeling like they really don't have to address the inequities and the injustices that have occurred in terms of people of color in this country, because there is not now the same kind of feeling from major corporations, from the individuals who are in charge, and from the political texture of our country to address some of these. So this is a dialogue that's going to be ongoing, but I'm really glad to hear that you're bringing it up, because I want to know, why did Jamal say this? What was his reasoning for indicating in the boycott?
There,
Did,
there is nothing that I found in any of his statements that I feel like properly addresses a great answer to that question. What he said was that the progress had been made. And we just broke down the data and statistics where it indicates to me that s- some progress might have been made, but the asks have not been met. They certainly have not been exceeded. Now, I will say that one of the things that came up was that Target has a new CEO. Target's been freaking out for a while, right?
or as we say sometimes, Target.
Yes, yes. I think they got to earn Target back.
Oh, did you stop calling it Target? Sorry. Okay, okay. All right, you're back to Target. You're no longer Target. Okay.
But they had a new CEO come in as of February 1st.
Was it an African American?
It was not.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And so he was like, after conversations with this new CEO, I feel good about the future of Target's commitments. And I'm like, this man started his job on February. It hasn't even been 2 months. And you are pulling back from the boycott after one conversation with somebody who hadn't been in the job for 2
See,
months?
you know what this does? This really makes us wonder, and we don't know, but it makes us wonder, what was that backroom conversation? We want to know, absolutely, Jamal, what did you all talk about, and what was promised to you? What?
You personally, right?
Yes,
Because
and
and we know it's to the community.
well, yeah, and that hasn't happened. So we'd like to know what you think. For those of you who are listening to us and those of you who are watching, we'd really like to hear your comments on this. How do you feel about the boycott today? And how do you feel about the conversation that we're having and the Reverend Bryant and his deciding to pull back? So please let us know.
And will y'all be pulling back? Are you staying out of Target and continuing your shopping in other places? I mean, um, just because one person says the boycott is over does not represent a whole movement, which is what the initial organizers have said. And so I was just shocked. And then it made me a little sad in terms of what this means when the community comes together, because I feel like we did a really good job of coming together on
There
this
was a
particular.
major impact when you started looking at the numbers and the amount of money that they were losing from, that Target was losing from the African American community. When you took a look at what their earnings were for certain quarters, the boycott was having a major difference in terms of their income.
And it was a good example for other corporations that this is what could happen, if these types of policies are implemented or if we are, as a community, forgotten about. But what made me sad is a little bit of progress, all that folks think that they're worth. Like, if you ask for 100% and they deliver 30%, you're like, "Oh, okay, that's good enough." I'm like, please don't let that be it.
That's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable to me.
That's unacceptable. Yes. So we will, we're going to stay tuned. We're going to stay on this and we'll take a look. But I still want to know why he said that. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna
so
have
like,
to-
how much did he get paid?
Well,
He just want to. Maybe he has said he hasn't gotten paid anything, but you're right. There has to, because otherwise it doesn't make it make sense.
that yes, please
Somebody
do
ask.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
else in the
yeah.
comments. Make it make sense.
He's out there. He's been traveling around the country. He's been going various places. So, Reverend Brian, we want to hear from you too. We want to know, what is it that makes you think that we should pull back on this boycott as well? But that's okay. I mean, we're going to find out, and then we as a community are going to stand together because that's what we do. We've been doing it since slavery times, and we're going to continue doing
And
it
before.
today. Well, that's true. That's how we
Up to
got
the beginning
here.
of time. Yeah.
I was watching Today's Show recently, and speaking of Black men and this not being the theme of
Is this a better are we gonna raise it back up?
it is something that's good and positive. Craig Melvin,
Mhm.
who was chosen to be one of the co-hosts of the Today Show, and he is Savannah Guthrie's co-host, and God bless her and her family.
Absolutely.
She's been going through, so we continue to have her in our prayers. But he just recently started a podcast.
Oh, sign in the air.
Something
Or in the water.
he said that he was approached because not only are podcasts becoming more and more popular, but he was approached because people thought that he had a really good perspective in terms of how he looked at life. And they asked him to host a podcast, and the title of it is Glass Half Full. And he said he thought about it quite a while, and then he decided, let's really talk about how we're going to do this podcast. So what he did was he thought about who he wanted to interview, and he said, I usually have an opportunity to interview people for a good 3, 4, 5 minutes. On the podcast, I could really talk to people for an extended period of time. And so he said that excited me. He also likes to drink bourbon. And so he decided that he would go to his basement and create his own little studio.
Does make for a good conversation.
In his bar area, and have a toast to whoever it was. And so he has started this podcast. It's brand new, but some of the folks that he really wanted to talk to was Shaq and Carmela Anthony and Sharonda Rhimes. And so he's really excited about this new beginning. And I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think about that?
So I saw the trailer, and I'm always here for new and different and interesting content and conversations and learning more about people. And so I think I might try to, listen in or watch in and see what I think. But what really kind of struck me about the trailer was that, so you said that the name of the podcast is Glass Half Full.
Yes.
And so one of the questions that I guess that he asks every interviewee, every guest, is, do you view your life glass half full or glass half empty? And so, by the way, if I were to ask you this question, I already know what your answer would be. Um,
Absolutely, you know what my answer would be. That's why I'm here today. If my glass wasn't half full, then my life wouldn't have been what it was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but in terms of at least what they teased, it was about 50-50 in terms of the guest
Yes.
saying either
Yes.
half full or half empty. And so it made me wonder for the folks who said glass half empty, I wonder why. Because I mean, these are successful people. They appear to, I mean, you can never really go off of appearances of people's lives, but they appear to have like navigated their lives in a certain type of way. And so I'm like, maybe glass half empty might mean something a little different to them. So that's actually a part of why I'm like, oh, this could be interesting to watch, in particular, because I want to understand how somebody can navigate their lives in what appears to be a positive way with the mindset of having a glass half empty.
So when I was watching the interview that you're talking about, I thought you're right. Those individuals have had a lot of success, but perhaps what they're focused on, maybe, is the fact that they had to go through all of these challenges in order to be able to get to where it is. You know, when people see you and they see you as successful, what they believe is that you've gotten there and, you know, your life is cool. Your life is
It's been all roses and rainbows and
or, you know,
unicorns.
you haven't had the same kind of problems in life that I've had. But when you take an opportunity to read some of the autobiographies and in today's social media world, when you really dig deep, you really find that everybody has had to go through a something. Everybody has, whether you're wealthy or whether not. And you really have to then have a perspective. And I personally believe that your perspective is what if should be, you know, what have I learned from this? Because I don't want to really have to go through the same thing all over again, all over
Yeah.
again. But also, how do you move from one point to another point? So I think in terms of looking at the glass half empty or half full, it might depend on the day, but I believe that you have to then move it forward because you're going to go through something. And I think that may be, I don't know that. I haven't watched the podcast yet because it's brand new, but that may be an opportunity to be able to have a different perspective. What do you think about
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it made me curious because I know at least for in my life and then the folks who I view as mentors and have had a level of success as I define it, they tend to view life as half full, and that's a part of what has helped them navigate some of those valleys and challenges to kind of just keep going and keep pushing. And so I don't know, but like I said, I'm curious to see how his guests view half empty and if it means to them what it means to me. Because maybe it doesn't, maybe there's probably a whole different perspective out there that I haven't even considered. And so that would be the reason for me to kind of tune in and be like, oh, huh, all right.
it?
That's
So
something
I'm going to tune in as well, and then we'll have an opportunity to talk about whether the glass is half.
over bourbon.
No, I don't
It's
want.
not your, I know, it's not your,
Bourbon is not my cup of tea. What about you?
you don't like brown liquor, period, do you?
No, not very much. Not very. What about you?
So I developed an affinity for bourbon after working for an alcohol company, and they took us to the Bourbon Trail.
In
And
Kentucky.
yeah, in Kentucky,
Right.
in Louisville, Kentucky in particular.
Right.
And it was a very curated experience because I was there representing an alcohol company, and I showed up and they were like, let's make you a cocktail. And I was like, I don't do bourbon. They were like, ma'am, yes, you do.
Okay. Okay.
Let me show you how we do bourbon.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, turns out I do bourbon.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So actually, I think we could get you there. We'll have to take you to the Bourbon Trail.
We have lots of relatives in Kentucky, so I'm okay going
Sure,
to.
yeah,
Is it?
right.
So maybe going to the Bourbon Trail. So, but we want to toast Craig Melvin and his new podcast, and let him know that we're gonna try it out, and maybe with a glass of bourbon. How about that?
Yeah, and if we do it with a glass of bourbon, our glass will be empty by the end.
But I will start out with my glass half full.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. There you
Well,
go.
it's been wonderful talking to you, dear.
I know you're trying to wrap it up, but we have to talk about one more thing.
Oh.
We have to talk about the arts and what came up in the arts. And I have to hear your perspective because,
Oh, yeah.
you ran an international arts company. So, I mean, what were your feelings about the actor Timothée Chalamet's comments about how ballet and opera are irrelevant? This actually came on my radar more so once Misty Copeland, who I like to follow, who's everything, was like, "Oh, like, I disagree, and here's why."
When Matthew McConaughey was doing this interview
Mm.
with Timothy, and I watched Matthew's face.
I think a whole bunch of people's faces.
Well, yes, and the comment that was made that opera and ballet were irrelevant at this particular time, and um, I, I I was shocked to hear an actor to say that in 2026.
And he comes from a family of dancers.
Ballet
Yeah,
dancer,
from, like,
yeah,
the New York
yeah.
company or something like this.
Sister, his mother, and his grandmother were
Some pushback was like, "Maybe it's a family issue."
well, could be, could be.
It's
It
like,
could
what's
be,
happening?
but his comment really struck a nerve
Yeah.
because I think not only Misty Copeland, but other people felt like he's ill-informed. It's
Mhm.
an art form, whether you're talking about the opera or whether you're talking about the ballet. It's an art form that has been here for centuries and that is a beautiful expression of art and self-expression. And it's an opportunity to be able to grow culturally. And so some people suggested that maybe what Timothy needed to
He
do
needs to grow
was,
culturally.
I guess, to grow culturally and to be able to express maybe a different kind of feeling if he would go to the opera and go to the ballet. And it also, in the conversation that had been taking place, really allowed people to embrace arts and culture in a way in 2026 that we need to. It adds to our life more than taking from our life. It allows us to be able to experience the joy and the beauty and the self-expression of the artists themselves. And you may not like all of everything, and that's what I found being the CEO of an international contemporary dance company, but being able to enjoy the moments of self-expression and the beauty of dance and culture. It's an international language. It allows us to be able to move forward, I think, with a spirit of culture and joy in our hearts and soul.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point that you made that I thought about was, and again, we've talked previously about people kind of being one note. Opera and ballet, among other forms of art, are massive globally.
Yes.
Massive. And our experience here in the US is more limited sometimes because of access, because of I mean, there's some reasons there. And so if you have the opportunity, and the privilege, but the opportunity to be able to experience ballet and opera, to your point, whether you like it or not, I don't think that anybody can sit there and dismiss it based on the nature of the art form. And then just to know that even if this is a limited kind of US um, experience, that it is pervasive because of its excellence and its cultural relevance and its dynamicism. Is that a word? How dynamite it
Yes.
is,
Yes.
um, globally. I mean, that you it's offensive, but also it's like, "Sir, that says so much more about you
You, yes.
than it does about these art forms because they are spectacular."
And he is an artist saying this. I mean,
From an
he's an
arts
actor.
family.
Yeah, yes. On The View, did you see the interview on The View? And they were talking
They were
about
breaking it
it,
down and,
and
no. No, I mean, might have seen, like, a clip or 2, but no, I did not see, like, a
There
full.
were the various individuals on The View were all talking about their experience in arts and culture, and so whether it was the dance theater of Harlem, or whether it was acting on stage, or whether it was um, having a chance to be able to just go and celebrate opera, that is not always the easiest to understand in terms of the language, but the expression and
Easy to feel.
well, yes, it is easy. That's a great way to put it.
Mhm.
Easy. It's easy to feel, but also the amount of talent that you have to have to be able to express yourself was it's just tremendous. And
Like, "Sir, have you tried to, sing opera? Have you put on ballet shoes?" Because that's the level of flexibility that's necessary in life.
when we were traveling and touring in China, and we had an opportunity to go to a Chinese opera, and of course, we're not understanding the language, but we could feel the storyline, and we
Yeah.
could feel the passion, and we could really celebrate the beauty of the art form itself. And then traveling and watching the dance companies around the world, the same thing. It is an international language, which is what arts and culture is. So
Yes.
it's beautiful. So
I
Timothy,
like ballet more than opera, admittedly. Um, and, I won't say that I'm buying opera tickets, en masse for sure. That's not the case. And might not even I might there are probably other forms of dance that I would participate in as a viewer, um, and going to the theater. But by no means do I think just because that might be how I'm feeling this year that I would be so dismissive as to say, like, it's irrelevant to everybody around the world. Just I don't know. I don't know.
well,
Words matter.
Timothy Charlemagne, I was going to say, what you need to do is go experience more of that which we've had an opportunity to experience in our life, because all dance actually starts with some form of ballet. I know at
See, I don't know that.
well, because you have to be able to move your body in a certain kind of way. It's the rhythm, it's the soul, it's the spirit. So
Did you ever take ballet?
no, I did not.
Oh, okay.
So I have two left feet, so we didn't do that. So
I might could have started.
in my theater classes, that was not.
Oh, they kicked you out immediately. They're like, "Go now."
It was not. But you did.
I did, yeah. I mean, I was young. It didn't last for a long time, but there are pictures to prove that I was there.
Yes, you were there, and you liked wearing your little tutus and putting the makeup on.
Which is how I know the
Different.
foot strength
That's
that I mean,
exactly right. So I'm telling you that the talent and the art form, and shout out to all the African American companies as well as the white companies that really have the beautiful art form, and how they continue to be able to celebrate all cultures around the world.
absolutely. Okay. So I wanna end on a specific topic, continuing your celebration of your birthday. Okay, we got 3/4 of a century last week.
Yes.
And so you talked a little bit about your birthday last week, but we did pose a question to some of our audience on Reddit. And the question was, how do you approach milestone birthdays? Because we talked about how we celebrate. Um, and so do you all celebrate them, or do you try to ignore them? And so I just want to read a couple of the responses.
Okay.
Um, One person said, "For my 60th birthday, I took a nice drive up Highway 1 through Big Sur, all by myself, quiet, contemplative. But in reality, I didn't contemplate much, and aside from the drive, it was pretty much like any other day, and I'm fine with that. I feel better physically, mentally, spiritually in my early 60s than I have in the previous decade."
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Too. Another person said, "I went parachuting on my 60th. On my 70th, I went on a charter sightseeing plane with my best friend's son and grandson, and we scattered her ashes in the Columbia River Gorge. Sorry. For my 75th, I think I want to go up in a hot air balloon." And one of the coolest things is that so many people chimed in and were like, "Do it. It's one of the most magical things that they've ever done." And
It
so she
is.
got a lot of encouragement to celebrate her 75th birthday that way.
And that hot air balloon. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been in a hot air balloon.
I have,
It's a
yeah.
wonderful experience.
Mhm. Bend your knees on the landing.
Oh.
Just
The landing is
yes, yes, yes. Bend your knees, bend your knees.
yes.
Another person said, "I plan on killing it on my 60th birthday. We're gonna throw a huge party." There were several other comments, but the last one that I'll say, 'cause I think this will make you laugh. 75, damn, she looks early 50s at most. You'll take it?
I will take that. Thank you.
We'll take it.
Thank
Okay.
you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a wonderful birthday, a great celebration.
And it's not over.
But yeah, that's right. It's not over, but yes. Ooh, I like that.
So thank you all for joining us on this episode of Raised by Her. And if you enjoy the conversation, please continue to engage with us. Please like and subscribe on the channel. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
She's got wisdom, she's got sass, she's got questions, she's got class.